And hello for the second time today. I just made another video and thought I would make a second one. So this is kind of fitting with all the Paul McCartney excitement and news going around this week. I'm continuing in my reviews of Paul McCartney albums in order of release. And so with that we come to Electric Arguments, which came out on November 24th of 2008. He should have put it out 2 days earlier. Then he could have shared the November 22nd release date with the Beatles and the White Album, and also the Kinks of the Village Green Preservation Society and the Phil Spector Christmas album. That would have been kind of neat. But he didn't. He put it out on the 24th of 2008, and this is the third and so far final or last Fireman album. The first two were Strawberry Ships and something and Rushes, which don't have either one of those. I wish I had them on vinyl because those are really hard to find and quite pricey, but don't have them on vinyl or CD or anything. I've heard them before, and those were more the kind of experimental electronic music, or I don't know, I've only heard bits and pieces of them, so I didn't review those because I'm not familiar enough with them. What I did hear of them didn't really grab me, but I would like to hear him someday. I'm hoping that the way he's putting out the re-releases on colored vinyl, the couple of batches of those that he's done so far, he put out Thrillingtons, so I'm hoping that eventually he'll put out the first two Fireman albums on vinyl that way, because that'd be wouldn't mind having them just to have them, and it'd be better than paying $400 or $500 for original copies of it. So anyway, but this is more of a proper album to some extent. It's got actual songs and singing, and it's probably a little less avant-garde or experimental than the first two Fireman albums, but not entirely. This is pretty out there on some tracks, and I kind of liken this to Paul's White Album, where there's kind of a little bit of everything in here. And it's also an album where he seems to have just had fun and just went in the studio. I think he said that he recorded this, I think he, over a period of time, but when you put it all together, he recorded this thing pretty quick and just sort of went in and made up songs in the studio, and in a lot of cases, and just had fun and did what he wanted to do, and didn't really worry too much about commercial hits or radio play with this one. And it pays off, because it's another of his really good latter day albums. And it's a shame again that he's known for the Beatles, of course, and he's known for the Wings and Paul solo stuff in the 70s and early 80s, but passed around 82, 84, so the general public kind of lost interest in his new music, and some of it deservedly so, but a lot of it's really good and never got the attention or airplay that it should have gotten. A lot of these albums, like I said before, with Memory Almost Full and a couple of the others, and this one's included. If this come out back in the 70s or the early 80s, I think it would have been a much bigger hit, and I think it would have, a lot of these songs would be well-known classics by now that you hear on the radio all the time, with songs like Band on the Run and Listen to What the Man Said and so forth. Anyway, didn't do too well. It got to number 79 in England and got to number 67 in America. And I don't know if that's because it was the Fireman thing as opposed to a Paul McCartney thing, even though in this case, if you can read it, this is the first Fireman album to actually have his name on there, so it does have Paul McCartney. And it's him and this guy named Youth, who don't know anything about him other than he was involved in this album. He's the producer. I don't know if he's also a musician and plays on this too. Not really sure. Looks like he's a younger guy. Never heard of him. Don't know anything about him outside of his involvement with this Electric Arguments album. So, what else? Cool cover. I think it's a Paul painting, I believe. I don't know for sure, but and there's the gatefold, which also really like. That reminds me of the picture sleeve for See Emily Play, the great Pink Floyd 45 from 1967. And so you get that, and then you get some goodies in here. There's a book of there is Paul, and there is Mr. Youth, or however you refer to the guy. So just some pictures of, I guess they're making these paintings in the studio. And on the other side here, you get, it's been a while since I've pulled these out. Oh, well, you get the record sleeves. So I had actually taken the records out and put them in other sleeves. And here you get the actual record albums, of which there are two. So kind of a neat label. That side has the song listings for both sides of that album, and same there. And then there's the flip side of that record, the label on the flip side of that record. And these come in this sort of thick plastic bag, limited edition, I'm assuming, because this one's numbered. And I've seen a couple of others, and I think they're numbered too. This one's out of print and hard to find, but you can still see it around every once in a while, and you can still get that one for a reasonable price. I think I paid like $45 for mine, which isn't bad when you consider that several of his albums, recent albums, went out of print pretty quick on vinyl and go for $100, $200 and up. So, but anyway, he's got a really great run these last few albums, and by and large, and this is another great one. Like I said, it's kind of I like the fact that for this album, it doesn't seem like he really cared about commercial potential or a hit. I mean, he's Paul, so he kind of always probably does to some extent, but he just had fun and did what he wanted to do. And there are some really catchy, good songs on this album, and there's some stuff that's not so much, that's just sort of out there, but it's also really great stuff. There's a couple of things that might have been radio friendly hit potential. Unfortunately, nothing really was from this album, but let's just go through the tracks. So the first song on here is Nothing Too Much, Just Out of Sight. Opens with a great screaming Paul rocker that kind of reminds you of Helter Skelter or I'm Down. He just sort of yelling and screaming and lets it all go and has fun. It's got a great bit of Hendrix sounding guitar at the end of the song. Great way to start an album. One of his most revved up rockers of his solo career. Great song. I give that one a 10. Next song is Two Magpies, kind of a bucolic ballad, like an English meadow on a summer day sound to it. Reminds me of songs like Mother Nature's Son, Blackbird, that sort of thing. Really good song. I'm going to give that one an 8. Just a nice sweet song. And so Sing the Changes is the third song. Another great song, just a big production, majestic sounding bit of music. Good song, really good one. I'm going to give that an 8.5. Fourth song is Traveling Light. Has a spacey beginning and kind of nice at the beginning, but you think this is just an okay song. Then the tempo changes, big change in the tempo at about 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and the song kind of takes off and really builds up through the rest of the song to the end. Another good one, I'm going to give that one an 8. Fifth song is Highway, which is just a bluesy rocker. Might be the or one of the more most accessible and commercial things on the album. Not much to it, but it's really just a fun blues rocker song. Um, little little generic at times, but then it picks back up. The drums toward the end of the song, really nice, really cool, and so that one gets a 7 from me. Uh, Sixth song, "Light from Your Lighthouse," is an old country blues stomp song. This is actually, it says it's written by Paul McCartney. This is actually an old song that dates back to about 1923. A band called the Wiseman Quartet did it. Blind Willie Johnson did it. A whole lot of blues people and a whole lot of rock and roll people have done this song through the years, but Paul kind of changes it around a little bit and adds some new lyrics, and I guess enough that he can um, call it his own song. It's sort of kind of can call it his own song. The title refers to back to the Gospel of Matthew, which you'll find in your Bible. You can go look that up. It's a good one. It's kind of like an old 30s, 40s blues song, and I'm going to give it a 10. I like that one a lot. Sun is Shining, seventh song, is just a nice mid-tempo, solid kind of album cut track, and another good one. Like it a lot. I give it a 9. Dance Till We're High. That might actually be the one that could have been a hit off this album, and the one that's the most pop or radio friendly here. Just kind of a good sing-along song, kind of a nice tempo and rhythm to it. It's a really good one. It gets a 9 as well. Ninth song is called Lifelong Passion, which is a bit Eastern Indian music sounding, kind of the George Harrison thing. Slightly psychedelic sound to it, a really nice vibe to it, and I give it a 7.75. 10th song is This Love, which is an airy, spacey, dreamy type song with the vocals buried. Kind of almost a white noise background music, a little bit ambient music sounding. Interesting. Definitely an album cut. Nice enough, but I'm only going to give that one a 6.5. It's pleasant, but it's not one that I would go out of my way to hear. But it works well within the context of the album when you're just playing the record all the way through, so it fits there. Lovers in a Dream is the 11th song. It's another musical mood piece of music. Sounds Pink Floyd-ish. Kind of a hypnotic quality to it. It's a good piece of music. It's going to get a 7.8 from me. Number 12 song, Universal Here, Everlasting Now. Sounds like kind of a cool, trippy song. It's got some nice drumming, got dogs barking in the background. The song builds up really nice and sounds like background music to some strange kind of cult film. I like it a lot. I give it an 8.5. Number 13 song, Don't Stop Running, clips along nicely. It's a soothing piece of music, yet it's got propulsive rhythm to it and drives along nice. Good bass. Just sort of a good piece of music that you play during the weekend when you're around the house doing laundry or something, but just sitting around the house with your significant other. It's a nice piece of music. It gets a 7.9. And the last and final song, number 14, is called Road Trip. It's first part of it reminds me of the old 70s song Children of the Sun. If y'all remember that, I can't remember who did that, but that was all over the radio back in late 70s, 78, 79. And then it sounds like Children of the Sun with jungle sounds in it, and kind of a weird experimental piece of music. I give it a 6. It's probably it's not a bad song, but it's probably my least favorite on the album. So yeah, this is an underrated album that didn't get a whole lot of attention. unfortunately, because it's one of his best, and it ranks up there with a lot of his better known work. And overall, I'm going to give it a 9.4. This one had several tracks that were not on the album that were B-sides or released otherwise, just like all of his recent albums. Uh, some of the songs are just remakes of the songs on the album without vocals, without bass and drums, or just remixes of the songs. Some of them are other things, and they're all very uh, ambient music, electronica, experimental weird out there. Some of the songs last like 12 minutes and 15 minutes. So Solstice ambient acapella is one of them. Wickerman ambient dub, Morning Mist instrumental dub, and Equinox instrumental are four of the songs that were. I don't know if they're B-sides or just on. I think they released this in several versions, and they had bonus tracks, and I think that's where they were. The Japanese CD had some bonus tracks, and probably a Best Buy CD or something. But I listened to those, and they're okay. I do credit him for doing something different and experimenting, and he's always a Beatle, and they always experimented, so it's just in the blood, I guess. But 9.4 and a solid album, and one of my favorites of his that I don't pull out and play that often, but when I do, I really enjoy it. And very solid effort from Paul. So we will be back, or I don't know if you will, but I will be back with more Paul reviews, and I will see you then. Da-da-da.